And I want to welcome you to the expert breakout sessions for Mobile and IoT Summit. This is the session for Appian, and with us this morning, let me reintroduce Jorge Sanchez, Director of Products at Appian. Jorge, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Vance.
As Director of Product, Jorge is responsible for ensuring product meets growing customer needs, especially in this exciting new area of mobility and Internet of Things. And beyond a key strategic vision for a new wave of BPM and workflow and apps, he also brings strong technical skills and hands-on experience. In fact, in nearly a decade, he's led initiatives at Sprint, Bank of the West, among others. And in his session today, Enterprise Mobility and Beyond, Jorge looks at mobile and IoT devices and how they're opening new business opportunities, but also explores that IT really needs to access smart tools and platforms that can drive not just apps, but impactful solutions. And just a quick reminder, you can download Jorge's slides by clicking the download button at the end of the viewing area. And also in that same region, you'll see that there are some terrific PDF downloads available to you with no extra registration required, so I recommend you take advantage of those. And we love your questions, so to type any sort of question or comment and connect with Jorge, just submit something into the Ask a Question box. And now, Jorge, let me turn it to you and tell us about Enterprise Mobility and Beyond.
Thanks again, Vance. So today I want to talk about the impact of the mobile revolution. As we all know, the world is changing, and today it is changing more rapidly than ever before. Distance is becoming meaningless, technology is disrupting everything, users are demanding more. In fact, it was Heraclitus, an ancient Greek philosopher, who first said, "The only constant thing in life is change." In the last few centuries, technology has undoubtedly shaped the world. However, just in the last few decades, nothing has changed the world faster or with as big an impact as computing power and software. Now, if we take a look back, we first had huge machines used only for government or higher education research. Then, when we built the personal computer, it changed the way we did business. It allowed us to achieve levels of efficiency never before seen in our industries. Then the internet came, and it brought us all closer together, reducing distances, costs, allowing collaboration in a way never before seen. And then the mobile revolution arrived. Suddenly, people were able to work from everywhere. They had the power in their hands equal to devices that were built just a couple of years ago. And the enterprise has been playing catch-up with the mobile revolutions ever since. There have been some companies that have successfully ridden the wave and kind of adapted very well to the mobile revolution. However, just when you think you're getting the hang of all of these mobile apps and the iPhones and the Androids of the world out there, the Internet of Things comes, and now everything will be connected. It's not just about people and their devices, it's also about the devices themselves. How is your health being monitored? Are your appliances sending information back? Are you monitoring different things through the use of different devices, monitoring, for example, the network latency? How are you using all of this information? So my question to you all is, how are you preparing for digital change? As I said before, mobile technology is changing the way we do business. You can find examples of this everywhere. So, for example, 6 years ago, who would have thought that a simple mobile app could have completely disrupted the whole transportation industry? Uber did, and since then the taxi companies have just been trying to play catch-up. Mobile payments are becoming more and more popular. People are taking out their mobile devices and paying through them, and retailers have to play catch-up with that as well. People would probably go to a store if they can just take their phone and not have to take their whole wallets. Amazon, for example, is devising new ways of using drones to deliver goods to their customers with unprecedented speeds. I have an image here of a little robot. His name is Baxter, and it's a human-aware robot. So have you had any chance to think about how a robot like this can revolutionize your business? I mean, I don't know, and until you look into it, you might not know either. The list of examples keeps growing, but the reality is simple. If you're not already thinking on how you can leverage all of these new technologies in your business today, you can be sure someone else is, most probably your competition, and you don't want to be yet another example of a company being caught off guard and find yourself playing catch-up instead of leading the way. Having said all this, there are a lot of mobile challenges that all of our organizations and businesses need to address. For example, rapid adaptation. As new mobile technology becomes available, rapid adaptation and incorporating all of this new technology is imperative to remain relevant. Now let's go back a little bit and think about the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. The market was driven and dominated by one company, Microsoft. Everywhere you looked, you heard Windows, Office, SQL Server. If you had enterprise software and it didn't run on Windows, why bother, right? If you bought a computer and it didn't run Windows, you needed to buy a different kind of computer. Now, if we fast forward 10 or 20 years, either because of governments not liking monopolies or innovation from different companies, the stage started changing. And then in 2006, the mobile revolution began, right? Phones became smart. Companies like Apple and Google started coming up with smartphones and apps, and that completely revolutionized the way we thought about doing work. While some businesses have managed to be very successful at leveraging these new technologies and become multi-billion-dollar enterprises, others are still focusing on redesigning applications off of Internet Explorer 8. Adaptation is very hard. Change is always happening. Just as you're starting to get the hang of it, a new mobile device comes out. Now we have bigger phones with higher quality screens, pressure control, NFC payments. They're bigger, they're phablets, they're tablets. I mean, it just keeps changing. You feel like you can never catch a break. One thing is certain, though. The current mobile revolution has highlighted a broader need for all enterprises to be more adapted and ready for change. For many, every time you think about a new app, the people in the back of the IT room are saying, another one? It just becomes the bane of their existence, one app after the other, and their whole job is all about being the IT janitor, right? They're kind of having to work to keep up with all the different apps. Everything is a silo. And how will the device work? Do they pose a security threat? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. So all of these are different mobile challenges that every enterprise needs to consider when they're thinking about embracing the mobile revolution. However, mobile transformation is absolutely a thing of today. Modern mobile devices have not only expanded industries and business opportunities, but forced organizations to entirely rethink their operations. For example, do retail checkout counters really need to exist? Or can all retail employees just roam the store and help and be ready to check out customers from anywhere they are? Do government transportation departments need to actively monitor all road conditions? Or can mobile users just report incidents for them with real-time traffic information? Do employees need to provide all of these devices to their organizations, or can users just bring their favorite device and use it to work? All of these scenarios have already been implemented en masse over the past 5 years. The bar for technology has undoubtedly been raised. And with the rate with which computer power is keeping up, the possibilities seem endless. However, even companies that have led in mobile innovation need to keep track of the latest and greatest changes. For example, if we talk about Apple devices, just from a couple of years ago, did you know that the Apple Watch is actually just as powerful as the iPad 2 or the iPhone 4? It's 250 times more powerful in processing power as the first personal computer that came out. The trend to miniaturize and make devices available to the end users will continue. How can your IT system stay relevant? How can your IT organization keep up? So in other words, we come back to our original question. How are you preparing for digital change? Now, for a lot of organizations out there, the main challenge is that, for example, according to studies from Gartner and other analysts, 80% of your IT spend is going towards maintenance. Let me repeat that. 80% of your IT spend is going towards maintenance of the systems of yesterday. So where is your innovation spend going? Is 20% sufficient to think about how you can disrupt your industry with all the new technologies out there? This is a big problem for your industry, and this is what I was talking about when I was mentioning that IT is usually the IT janitor, right? You're just keeping the lights on. Most of your money is going towards keeping the lights on and keeping all the other systems that you've already bought running. So another question is, what if you could switch your maintenance and innovation spend? What if instead of spending 80% in maintenance and 20% in innovation, you actually spent 80% on digital innovation and 20% on maintenance? Now, it's a hypothetical question, but just think about it for a second. Suddenly, you would have the time to think how the Apple Watch app can revolutionize your industry. Suddenly, you can think about how drones or big data are going to be not just a fad word, but actually something that you can use to bring more value to your customers and more revenue to your business. Now, there's a lot of distractions that are preventing us from doing that switch from the 80-20, right? In today's holistic technology market, before you even sit down and start thinking about what that form that you need is going to look like, or what kind of reports you want, or what data you need to capture, you're already thinking about all these other distractions, right? Things that are expected but never quite appreciated. For example, is it going to work in any browser? Does it need to run on mobile? Does it need to run on tablets? Do we need to connect to other systems? How are we going to handle software upgrades? Do we need to buy new servers? Is it going to be secure? You need to provide a state-of-the-art security and performance. But just to highlight what I mean about these being distractions, when was the last time anyone here heard a press release on the fact that your systems are on the latest version of Java, or that you've recently upgraded your data centers? Yet ask anybody in the IT department, and these things are the bane of their existence. So what if you had a platform for building custom applications that took care of all of these considerations? If this platform took care of all of these issues, then you would have an opportunity to focus on what really matters, your solution. Instead of trying to decide whether it should work on one version of Firefox or one version of Internet Explorer, you can actually start building your app, start getting feedback. By the time other companies are figuring out what versions of the iPhone they're going to be supporting, you already have your first iteration, you already have feedback, and it might be already being used and downloaded by hundreds of users. We believe that leveraging a platform such as this is a great way to future-proof, if you will, your organization, from the technical side at least. However, the promise of future-proof is a little bit risky, right? This is why it's important to identify good platform investments that will maximize your returns. So when you're looking for a modern enterprise platform, the things that you want to focus on are mobile first and mobile ready. You need a platform that allows you to design applications for mobile devices, leverage their unique features and their form factor. However, there's a twist. They should also be able to be device agnostic. The last thing that you want is to spend all the time from your best developers designing a beautiful UI that works perfectly on the iPhone 6, only to find out that you need another one to design another interface so it works with the iPhone 6s Plus that is coming out in a couple of weeks, another one for the Apple Watch, another one for Android devices, another one for the tablets, another one for the phablets. This should be unacceptable. Future-oriented platforms should obscure this layer and allow you to design once and run everywhere. Mobile-ready means that you simply define what components and logics you want in your app. Whether you want a field, a report, a graphic, a drag-and-drop function, that's what you want to define. And the logic, what's going to happen after you use that component. And the platform takes care of the adaptation of these components into newer technologies with no additional effort on your end, which means if you have a form, for example, working on one device, it's going to work on another, and it's going to work on a wearable device. Another very important consideration to have is the service-oriented architecture. When we're talking about mobile and we're talking about the Internet of Things, the way we communicate with all of those different devices is very important. And the way that we capture information and we send information to those devices becomes particularly important with IoT. When applied to mobile and IoT, what we're talking about with service-oriented architecture is really using the platform as a mobile backend as a service, which empowers designers to use services from their businesses in any device. So that if you need to send, for example, the information from an invoice, you send it directly to that device in raw format, and then the format can handle the information for you. Or if you're monitoring, for example, through smart meters in the utility section, and you want to find out what the meter is telling you, you should be able to capture all of that information and render it in your apps without a problem. Other consideration is, of course, ease of building, changing, using. You don't want to have any obstacles in this area. You need to be able to quickly and easily build new interfaces, build applications, build different backend as a services, and it needs to be very easy to use. It also needs to be a platform that reduces and manages IT distractions. So wouldn't it be great if the platform provided identity management, security, support for all different browsers, support for all different mobile devices? It creates business rules. All of these things are important considerations to have when you're looking for the next enterprise platform. And finally, when you combine all of this, you need to have a platform that makes it easy for you to adapt and try new things, even if they don't work out. So a couple of examples. Not all failed attempts are necessarily bad, right? So we all remember Thomas Edison as the person that invented the light bulb, but not necessarily all of us know that he failed 10,000 times before. You have to be able to keep trying new things, and that is why it's so important for us to have that IT spend switch, right? It's so important for us to be able to try new things. Another interesting tidbit is Wayne Gretzky, right, a Hockey Hall of Famer, who once said that you miss 100% of the shots that you never take. Google Glass is a great example, right? Google had a great idea with Google Glass. They started making a lot of noise, a lot of different use cases, making videos of what they envisioned Google Glass to be. And in the end, it really didn't pan out as a device that is going to be adopted by the masses. It might have some use in certain cases. However, if Google never tried it, we might not have the wearables market that we have today. Right? We might not have an Apple Watch. We might not have the Gear and all of these additional devices that are coming out and the ones that are coming in the future. You have to be able to take these chances. So in conclusion, I would say that building modern mobile applications is absolutely hard. But ensuring your investments in mobile technology stay relevant is even harder, right? You want to make sure that what you build today will work tomorrow without having to break the bank to do so. You want to make sure that whatever you build and works on an iPhone today is going to work on the Apple Watch, if that becomes the mainstream way of doing work. Also, businesses and IT organizations should adopt a future-minded strategies and future-minded platforms. Platforms that would allow them to not have to reinvent the wheel every single time, not need to have to hire an army of Android developers and an army of iOS developers to kind of recreate the same app over and over and over. So in a world where the only thing that is constant is change, the adoption of platforms designed for continuous innovation and change is, in my opinion, the only logical solution. So of course, I would like to point out the fact that Appian offers one comprehensive enterprise platform. The Appian platform enables organizations to rapidly build modern mobile applications that continuously evolve with the latest technology innovation. Whatever application you build today will continue to work tomorrow. And it doesn't matter if you want to use a browser, if you want to use a mobile device, if you want to use a smartphone, a tablet, or a wearable device. It will keep on working. With easy-to-use design interfaces, Appian aligns businesses and IT for rapid prototyping and implementation of new business ideas. Right? So trying new things will not need to break the bank. You'll have all the tools necessary to quickly try new things and put them out there and start using them and provide business impact and a great user experience for your customers. Design tools for building processes, rules, data, user interface are all constructed with visual point-and-click and drag-and-drop compositions. And applications can be continuously refined, right? Final is rarely a label used in today's world, right? You're always changing. Laws change, compliance requirements change. Applications can be continuously refined, allowing organizations to easily adopt agile software development techniques to adapt to changing business priorities. Thank you very much for your attention. Back to you, Vance.
All right, thanks for a great look at this new, really accelerating trend in moving to mobile and certainly dipping our toes into IoT, a really great overview of the challenges as well as the opportunities out there. And as you might expect, we've got a handful of questions that are both from the big picture side of things as well as the technical details. So with your permission, let's turn to some questions.
Absolutely.
You know, Jorge, let's start with a top-level question. It's something we've actually been hearing all morning in different sessions, and it simply says, what are the main differences and or commonalities that Appian is seeing between building and running a mobile app and this new generation of IoT apps?
Well, this is a very interesting question because IoT does not necessarily involve apps all the time. The impact of IoT is that you can bypass an app and go straight into the device and into the source of the data. So with IoT, it's not just about how you represent the data on an app or in a report, but it's really how you handle big data and how you can actually drive action from all of those insights. Let me give you an example. One of our customers uses Appian to handle meter tampering. So we're talking utilities, right? So you have electrical smart meters, and they can actually identify cases where the meter thinks it may have been tampered with. All of these meters, we're talking hundreds of thousands of these meters, send information to the system, right? And they're not going to be monitored necessarily by a mobile app. What they do is they send all of these alerts, and then the system needs to make sure that these are real alerts. Can they be discarded, or are they actually potential for a real tamper? So the system filters all of them. Then when a human needs to see it, it knows that the system has already discarded tampering reasons for an outage or maybe a scheduled maintenance, and only focuses on launching an investigation for those that could be real tampers. So when the field technician goes in, they go out there with their iPads, and they actually find out, because of geolocation, where they are, what the tamper event was, and they can actually see in real life what is going on, take pictures with their mobile device, update the cases. And that's a great example of how you can combine IoT with mobile device to support all of those field employees and field technicians together in this example.
You know, it is a good example. And in fact, just to drill down a bit on that, Jorge, it sounds like one of the key aspects of whether it's an app or not in this transition or this convergence between mobile and Internet of Things is getting access to that data, being able to know that it's reliable data. Are there things in the Appian platform that are perhaps more data-centric than a traditional mobile app platform?
Absolutely, and when we talk about providing one comprehensive platform, this is what we're talking about. It's not just about building the UIs, although it's very important. It's not just about building the business rules. It's also about integrating with all the different systems. It's about being able to parse the data. And you might have huge data centers that contain a lot of business insights, right? And you want to be able to take action on it. So Appian has created a lot of different adapters and connectors to connect to different systems, but we've also created the ability with a feature that we call the Web API Designers. Developers and designers can actually go and design their own web APIs. So if you want to control how you're going to parse the data directly in Appian, or if you want to expose Appian functionality and Appian data to other systems out there, you have the ability to control that. And I talked briefly on that during the presentation when I mentioned a service-oriented architecture and the ability to support mobile backend as a service, right? The ability to create all of those connections and all of those entry points, both for your system and to other systems, I would say is very, very important.
You know, Jorge, you've mentioned SOA and MBAS and other techniques, and it really does chime into a theme or a question we heard about pivoting from perhaps a piecemeal approach to a more unified platform approach. And here's a question I think that summed it up pretty well. We've been working for years on mobile apps and have assembled a range of app design tools, integration, and even security components. How does the Appian platform work with our existing installed investments?
Great question. So Appian is not meant to be, for example, a rip and replace kind of technology. We are meant to be used both as a way to complement your existing investments, but also augment them. For example, when we just talked about this with mobile backend as a service, you might use Appian for a number of different things. You might define additional business processes where we handle some exception conditions, right? You might define business rules and expose through Appian data that you want to leverage on a mobile application that you already built. So for example, instead of having to rebuild that mobile application, you can actually leverage that application and use Appian to call via a web API additional data, right? So you might have Appian trigger a process, run some conditions, run additional rules, and return to you the results so that the mobile app with the mobile interface can render that information in any way you see fit. Just the same, if you already have made investments in different libraries, different ERP systems, databases, Appian can leverage that and be the interface for it. So a lot of times customers tell us, hey, we've already invested in this CRM solution, right, but it's not mobile enabled. Well, in Appian, you can actually build an interface that will connect to your CRM system, but the interface runs on Appian and is mobile enabled. So with Appian, you can actually mobile enable additional components and additional applications that were not mobile enabled before. You handle all of the work through Appian, and then in the end, Appian pushes back the information through all of those systems of records. So we really work both ways, whether you want to control the look and feel and leverage Appian, kind of orchestrating a number of things, or if you want Appian to be front and center, we can do both. We have, for example, mobile enable different applications so that you can kick off the process through mobile device, and then Appian launches a ticket on your ticketing system, right? It updates an invoice in your accounts payable. It sends updates to the data that you use for reporting, and then it shows the end user the result, right? So consolidating all of that, avoiding users to having to connect to 5 different things in order to do one aspect of the work is where a lot of our customers and users see a lot of the value in what we do.
Wow, that's a great picture that you just painted there, Jorge. You know, it also goes to another theme that we hear about here in the questions, and that is your exploration of that 80-20 rule on IT spending, where 80% goes to maintenance and only 20 for innovation. This has been true in IT for, what, years and years, decades probably. And the question simply says, how does the Appian platform help us reduce cost and complexity for life cycles of both mobile apps and IoT projects? We'd love to put more money toward innovation.
Absolutely, and what we try to do at Appian is make it easy for you to make that switch, right? Because when you don't have to worry about whether your solution is going to run in one device or another, when you don't have to worry on whether your solution is going to work on the newest invention that company X makes and it suddenly becomes mainstream, right? Our promise to you is that whatever you build today is going to keep working today and tomorrow. So that makes sure that you can focus on your solution. Instead of being distracted by all of these IT distractions that I talked about earlier, you can focus on what matters to you, your solution, bringing value to your customers, bringing value to your users, and making sure that your application is up to date. So a lot of times what companies are forced to do is, instead of improving their applications, they keep working on them a lot so that they work on the latest version of Chrome, so that they also work on the latest version of the iPhone 6 Plus or the 6S or whatever is coming out. And when was the last time they actually added new features to that application? Right? It was probably a while back, because all of their engineering department and all of their efforts are going toward making the application work on all of these different endpoints. With Appian, you can actually focus on the solution itself, improve the solution, and all of the other IT distractions are taken care of for you. It'll work in any browser. It'll work on mobile devices. It'll work on wearables. It'll be secure. What we allow our designers to do is to use a declarative approach to their UIs, meaning they're not going to kind of define the pixel perfect, I want this to be in this specific location, but rather they're going to focus on what they want the solution to do. You want a specific field that captures this data. You want a connection that gets this information from this other system, so on and so forth. And when the time comes to display the information on a mobile device, the rendering engine will display it in the best appropriate method. For example, if the user is on Chrome, the server is going to send the HTML that best fits that specific device. If you're on an Android device, the server is just going to send the intent of the UI, and the UI is going to be rendered natively in the best way there. Now, when we talk about IoT, a lot of companies out there, when you buy them, they give you a library of web APIs that you can use. If you want to call this type of device, use this thing. If you want to call that other type of device or get information from this device, use that other one. But it's kind of pre-made. And we've taken it a step further. It's not just about what we give you out of the box, but it's also about what you can build to fit your specific needs. So with our Web API Designer, you truly have a mobile backend as a service that you have complete control over. So you define how you want to interact with those different devices and what you're going to do with the data once it's in your system.
Wow, that is fantastic. I see that we're just about out of time, Jorge. How would you engage with folks that might want to learn more or maybe even take a test drive of the Appian platform from the cloud? Are there ways that they can take a free trial or get a better sense of how it works for their company?
Absolutely. I would invite them to check out our website. We have a lot of information there that talks about our different offerings. We have a lot of resources that go into detail about different use cases that we have, the different industries that we play in, sample applications, architectural reviews, so on and so forth. And we also offer trials and would be more than happy to engage with you and talk about how we can help your organization reach its business goals.
Wonderful, wonderful. In fact, I think thanks to your staff, we actually have a link right here in the breakout room for access to one of those trial opportunities. So really terrific session. Jorge Sanchez, Director of Products at Appian. And thanks again for taking so many questions and walking us through the opportunities and pitfalls of this great new world.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And as we love to do here at Mobile and IoT Summit, Jorge also mentioned some other resources, both in his session and during the Q&A. We have got a great summary slide up here with links that will take you directly to those resources. And again, just a reminder, the PDFs and trial that are here in the breakout room are available right now with no extra registration. Thanks again, everyone.